Hello, everyone. My name is Yamal, and I provide daily updates on Tesla, markets, and technology. Let's get started. Markets are flat today. Oil is up $1 per barrel to $66 per barrel. Treasury yields are up a couple basis points. 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.41. No economic releases today. But this week, we're going to get the retail inventories for June, housing price index for May, consumer confidence for July. I think that's going to be one of the first data points for July. Wednesday, we had the mortgage application index and GDP deflator for Q2. Thursday, we have PCE report and initial weekly claims, of course, and the Chicago PMI for July again. And on Friday, we have the jobs numbers. So we're going to see how that all shapes up. Let's go to the heat map. Tesla is up 4%. Everything else pretty much mixed, except for semiconductors that are also up. Financials are down. Philip Morris is down 2%. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe we can take a look at it later. Utilities are down across the board. Let's read our daily article. S&P, NASDAQ at record highs as US-EU trade deal sparks optimism in pivotal week. S&P 500 NASDAQ opened at record highs, while the Dow was on the cusp of that optimism from US-EU trade pact set the stage for a week packed with mega cap earnings and Fed meeting and approaching US tariff deadline. S&P 500 wrote flat, basically. President Trump and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen unveiled a trade framework on Sunday, slashing EU import tariffs to 15%. I'm not sure if slashing is the right word here, after previously threatening rates set for August 1. Last week, a string of deals with major US trade partners, including Japan, Indonesia, and Philippines, fueled robust gains on Wall Street. But the markets remarkably rallied, face a crucial test in the days ahead as Magnificent Seven, having made Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple prepare to report their earnings, potentially setting the tone for Wall Street. Last week, Alphabet surprised Wall Street with a bold capital spending hike, reviving AI optimism, even as Tesla cast a shadow on warning of tough quarters ahead amid shrinking EV subsidies. Tesla rose 0.4% after it's up 4% today after the automaker signed a $16.5 billion deal to source chips from Samsung. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. This is about as busy as we can get in the markets. This week could make or break that momentum in the near term. With 4 of the Magnificent Seven stocks reporting earnings, the tech sector has the potential to lead the market either higher or lower. Latest pact with 27-member EU bloc has raised expectations that a global trade war could be averted, while other economies are scrambling to finalize agreements before the deadline. Ongoing US and China talks are expected to extend their fragile trade truce by another 3 months, while negotiations with India were still underway. A key highlight of the week will be the Fed's 2-day policy meeting starting Tuesday, with traders widely expecting the central bank to keep interest rates steady. I think the odds are about 97, 98% right now, so there's still a couple percent expecting a cut this week. But I think the September one is the, as per the CME Group's Fed Watch tool, odds for a September cut stand at 63%. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think those odds are a little high. So we'll see what Powell says this meeting. The meeting comes amid an aggressive campaign by the White House to pressure the Fed into lowering borrowing costs. Trump on Friday suggested Powell might be ready to lower interest rates. I think that was a bit of a stretch. Among the deluge of key economic indicators this week, attention will be on the Personal Consumption Expenditure Report, PCE, the Fed's preferred inflation measure, and non-farm payrolls data to gauge how tariffs have affected consumer prices and the labor market. All right, let's move on to Tesla. Tesla to roll out human-driven chauffeur service in Bay Area, California regulator says. Tesla plans to offer a chauffeur-style service operated by human drivers to a limited number of people in San Francisco Bay Area, a California regulator said on Friday, contrary to a media report that the EV maker would offer a robotaxi service. Unlike Alphabet's Waymo unit, Tesla cannot operate its service using autonomous vehicles because the EV maker does not have the required permits and has not applied, according to a spokesperson for the California Public Utilities Commission. Tesla did not respond to a request for comment. This week, the Tesla CEO Musk said on an earnings call that the company was getting the regulatory permission to launch robotaxis in several markets, including San Francisco. Business Insider reported on Friday that the service would be a robotaxi operation with humans in the driver's seat who would be allowed to control the car. Ashok Laswamy, who leads Tesla's self-driving efforts, said on Tesla's Wednesday earnings call that the company would launch a robotaxi service in the Bay Area with person in the driver's seat just to expedite while we wait for regulatory approval. Last month, Tesla launched a trial robotaxi service in Austin using about a dozen Model Y SUVs. Tesla invited a few passengers to use the service, where human safety monitors sat in the front passenger seat. Tesla's autonomous driving software controlled the vehicle. With the Bay Area service, Tesla is not allowed to test or transit the public in an autonomous vehicle, even one with a human safety driver, according to the CPUC spokesperson, who added Tesla can only transport people using a human driver in a non-autonomous vehicle. The spokesperson said that Tesla told the CPUC on Thursday that it plans to offer rides to friends and family of employees and select members of the public on their permit the company has that allows a human driver to transfer passengers in a traditional vehicle for charter services. For the Bay Area service, Tesla may be able to use its full self-driving supervised feature, which can perform many driving tasks but requires a human driver to pay attention and be ready to take over at all times. Excuse me. The CPUC spokesperson did not respond to a question on whether Tesla could use that feature, but such technology does not require an autonomous vehicle permit in California because the human driver is expected to be in control at all times. So I don't know how this is any different than what Tesla has been doing for the last couple of years through the influencers on social media. Companies need a series of permits from both the CPUC and California Department of Motor Vehicles in order to test and deploy autonomous vehicles in the state. Today, Tesla only has a DMV permit to test autonomous vehicles with a safety driver. A DMV spokesperson said Tesla recently met with the agency, but has not applied for additional permits that would be needed to collect fares or test without a safety driver. The next step in the process for Tesla would be to apply for a CPUC license for an autonomous vehicle to pick up passengers with a safety driver, according to a review of the California's autonomous driving regulations. But companies must first operate in a pilot phase where they cannot charge customers. So this is basically what Waymo has been doing. Waymo, which offers autonomous ride-hailing in Los Angeles and Bay Area, logged more than 13 million testing miles and secured 7 different regulatory approvals in California over 9 years before receiving the go-ahead to charge passengers for rides in driverless robotaxis in 2023. Yeah. So this is the critical paragraph right here. It's going to take Tesla many years to ramp up its any sort of robotaxi service. I think San Francisco probably going to be next, and then Arizona state also has some favorable laws around robotaxi services. So Austin, San Francisco, Phoenix, and maybe a couple of the cities for the next 5 years. And it's going to be a very slow rollout, just like Waymo did. There's no reason why Tesla would be able to exceed Waymo's fleet in any time soon, in my opinion. Let's read this paragraph again. Waymo, which offers autonomous ride-hailing in LA and the Bay Area, logged more than 13 million testing miles and secured 7 different regulatory approvals in California over 9 years before receiving the go-ahead to charge passengers for rides in driverless robotaxis in 2023. I'm going to show you one more thing. Let me just take myself off of here for a second. All right, here we go. So here you can see I made a prediction in November 2024, November 29, 2024. I said I've tested every FSD version in recent years, but this is irrelevant as data speaks for itself. FSD V12 completes 95% of rides without a critical intervention. So that was November 2024. I think that even that actually has declined a little bit as more data was logged in. And I said I expect V13 will achieve 98% reliability. And at the time, many people were predicting that V13 would be the robotaxi software or autonomous driving, robotaxi fleet, and all that stuff. But obviously, 98% is not enough for robotaxi service because 2% of the time, that means there's a critical error. And Tesla robotaxi will take 5 to 10 years for nationwide adoption. So far, even that seems optimistic because if you look at the data today, FSD 13 missed even my low expectations for that post I just read, despite being limited to hardware 4, which I didn't expect. I thought hardware 3 vehicles will also get the FSD 13, but that hasn't happened. Clearly, FSD hardware 3 isn't able to run a model that is as big as FSD 13. So I think they got to neuter the version. And even Tesla doesn't name it FSD 13. I think they named it FSD 12, that's something. But FSD 13, only limited to hardware 4, still only has 96.9% of chips completed without a critical error. And I had predicted 98% in November 2024. Okay. So that's below the 98%. So the improvement I expected over the last 7-8 months for FSD 13 was higher than what it actually achieved, which means the pace of progress is actually lower than even what I predicted as a Tesla bear. So, I mean, if you look at the details, I highly recommend people follow this Tesla FSD community tracker. 96.9% of drives completed without a critical error after 76,000 miles logged. And I think that's plenty of evidence. 5,000 entries, 76,000 miles logged, 225 city miles to critical disengagement, and 41 miles to any disengagement. So every trip, there's a disengagement on average. Every few trips, there's a critical error, which means an accident, and 240 days of tracking. And more, also in Texas, so you can see some detail in this corner right here. So I zoomed into it and posted in a reply. Even in Texas and California, where Tesla's trialing a robotaxi service, FSD 13 completes only 98% of trips without a critical error. So this is basically geofenced in the best states, like the weather's the best in Texas and California. The lines are the best and everything. There's most concentration of Tesla, so high greatest amount of data that Tesla has collected from these regions. FSD 13 limits to hardware 4 in the best regions, and it can still get to only 98%. And you need 99.9999%, so one accident in a million, miles to match human reliability. So it's many years away from a true level 5 robotaxi service. Not going to happen anytime soon. All right. On the other hand, Lyft self-driving shuttles are coming to US cities by 2026. Lyft has officially announced it will add autonomous shuttles to its ride-hailing network by the end of 2026, partnering with German supplier Bantelier and its mobility offshoot Poland to deploy fully self-driving electric minibuses across the key US cities and airports. And across the world, there are about a dozen autonomous vehicle robotaxi companies that have a larger fleet than Tesla's 10 Model Ys already. And many of them are now actually expanding internationally. So, next, Tesla's budget Model Y spy shots reveal no panoramic glass roof, no continuous light strip, no rear screens. The glass roof, I think, is a pretty coveted feature, so I think that's going to dampen demand a bit. And also, no rear screen is a coveted feature as well. Interior spy photos of what appears to be a simplified Tesla Model Y have surfaced online, first published by automotive blogger Garage42. These images suggest Tesla is preparing to launch the more affordable variants of its popular electric SUV with several cost-cutting modifications. During Tesla's future earnings call, CEO Elon Musk clarified that the long-rumored affordable Tesla isn't an entirely new model. Isn't that what they said a few months ago? But rather a simplified version of the Model Y, which is what Troy Tesla has been predicting. According to Chinese auto media Yish, his new variant is already in production and is expected to hit the market in the fourth quarter of 2025. The interior design shows changes aimed at reducing costs. The panoramic glass roof and the rear entertainment screens have been eliminated. The front center armrest area has been redesigned with a pass-through layout, creating a more spacious and practical cabin. Despite these simplifications, the steering column stalks have been retained. And the vehicle will likely continue to use the current model's screen-based gear selection system. Interesting. Exterior modifications are also evident in the leaked images. Most notably, the continuous light strip across the front fascia has been removed, with headlights repositioned higher, giving the vehicle a look more reminiscent of the Model 3. The tail light design is expected to lose its central reflective light strip, further simplifying the design and reducing production costs. In the first half of 2025, Model Y sold 171,000 units, remaining the sales champion among the vehicles produced, priced about 250,000 yuan in China. I'm not sure why the price is a kind of like a category thing, but if there's a vehicle that's selling more, that's just as good. I don't know why this metric matters. However, its advantage over the other models has become increasingly narrow. In the same price range, Xiaomi's SU7 sold 155,000 units. However, Xiaomi YU7, which sold 200,000 units in an extremely short time, only launched in June 26. I think Xiaomi YU7, as we discussed many times in previous months, is going to overtake Model Y in the next couple of quarters. All right, moving on. Musk's Tesla signs $16.5 billion chip supply deal with Samsung. Tesla CEO Elon Musk said the US automaker had signed a $16.5 billion deal to source chips from Samsung Electronics, a move expected to bolster South Korean tech giant's loss-making contract manufacturing business. Samsung shares soared nearly 7% after news of the deal on Monday, which comes as the world's top memory chip maker faces mounting pressure in the race to produce AI chips, where rivals TSMC and SK Hynix. Musk says Samsung's new chip factory in Taylor, Texas will make Tesla's next generation AI 6 chip. Okay, so it's the AI 6 contract. And I think goes through 2033. So it's probably not going to start shipping until 2029, is what I'm guessing, because we also have AI 5 coming probably later this year, starting volume ramp in 2026. It's going to last a couple of years, so maybe it ends 2028, 2029, and then the AI 6. Potentially re-energizing the project that has faced long delays amid Samsung's difficulties in retaining attractive major clients. Samsung agreed to allow Tesla to assist in maximizing manufacturing efficiency. This is a critical point, Musk said. But my experience is that he's just going to kind of muck up the works. The $16.5 billion number is just the bare minimum. Actual output is likely to be several times higher, he said in another post. This is BS. Shares of Samsung jumped 7% to their highest since September last year, etc. According to senior analyst at NH Investor Securities, Ru Yong Ho, Samsung's Taylor fab so far had virtually no customers, so this order is quite meaningful, although the deal may represent a small portion of its logic chip revenue annually. In October, Reuters reported that Samsung had postponed taking deliveries of ASML chipmaking equipment for its Texas factory, as it had not yet won any major customers for the project. It has already delayed the plant's operational start to 2026. It's not clear whether the Samsung Tesla deal is related to ongoing trade talks between South Korea and the US. Seoul is taking US partnerships in chips and shipbuilding amid last-ditch efforts to reach a trade deal to reduce potential 25% US tariffs. A South Korean trade ministry official told Reuters he had not heard that the specific deal was part of the trade negotiations. While no timeline was provided for AI 6 chip production, Musk has previously said that next generation AI chips will be produced at the end of 2026. Oh, even later than I thought. So 2026 to 2029 is AI 5, and then 2029 to 2033 is AI 6, sounds like. Tesla Cybercab is displayed below. Lee Dongju, an analyst at SK Securities, expects production in 2027, 2028. That's not going to happen. Tesla has a history of missing its targets, to put it kindly. Samsung currently makes Tesla AI 4 chips, which power its FSD driver assistance system, while TSMC is slated to make the AI 5, initially in Taiwan and then Arizona, Musk said. Samsung, the world's top memory chip maker, also produces logic chips designed by customers through its foundry business. The Texas project is central to Samsung chairman's strategy to expand beyond its bread and butter memory chips into contract chip manufacturing. It holds just 8% of the global foundry market, far behind industry leader TSMC, which has a 67% share. Samsung had earlier announced a $16.5 billion chip supply deal without naming the client, saying the customer had requested confidentiality about the details of the deal, which will run through the end of 2033. Three sources briefed about the matter told Reuters that Tesla was the customer for the deal. So Reuters was ahead of the news again. All right. Anything else here? That's all Samsung related. All right. Next, macro news. Visa, MasterCard set for higher profits on solid spending trends. Visa and MasterCard are expected to report higher quarterly profits due to the steady consumer spending. Analysts will scrutinize spending trends, particularly in travel and discretionary purchases, and examine the potential impact of tariff uncertainty and the Genius Act on stable coins. And with that news, thank you very much, everybody, and I will chat with you all next time. Take care.